processes towards rationalization and also how they will contribute towards a single PSED system and how they're going to be aligning with our national priorities. So those are part of the things which constitute reform and its path. I invite you, Chairperson, to invite the administrators or the ministry through the administrators to present to you their 90-day reports and also to indicate to you what are the things that they would have done at that time. And so thank you very much for this opportunity, Chairperson. I'd like to hand over to the DG to touch on some of the points that may be for emphasis. Thank you.
Honorable Chairperson, esteemed members of this portfolio committee, our minister and colleagues, good morning to you. Thank you, Minister, for the report and outlining of events as they have unfolded regarding the 3 seaters. The presentation outline covers the following areas. The legislative provisions that informs the decision, the context and current governance arrangements in the seaters. In my mind, most important, the reasons for putting the seaters under administration. And we articulate these in each of the 3 seaters. And the process for putting them under administration, and the minister has covered substantially in his address these matters, but we would like to lift the technical aspects of it as well. The rest follows in that order. In the main, the Skills Development Act, as amended, Section 15, provides that the minister may, after consultation with the National Skills Authority and the SETA in question, direct the Director General to appoint an administrator to take over the administration of a SETA and to perform the functions as indicated. Specifically, the Skills Development Act number 97 of 1998, Section 15.4, provides that the minister may act in terms of subsection 1 without consulting the National Skills Authority and the SETA in question if there is financial mismanagement of a SETA and the delay caused by the consultation that would have been detrimental to the SETA's capacity to perform its function. In the minister's remarks and address to Parliament this morning, the minister has indicated that the reasons are firmly on the areas of financial matters that therefore put it and entrench the reasons primarily on Section 15.4 as indicated. In the context where allegations of governance shortfalls were received, the accounting authorities were not in place. Hence, SETA chief executive officers were appointed to assume the duties of the AAs. And that was in terms of Section 49 of the Public Finance Management Act. Chair, since the executive authority is responsible and accountable for oversight and governance of entities under the department, when allegations pointing to governance failures are reported, corrective action must be taken to bring stability at the entities. Given the dual role of the CEOs, it would have been inappropriate and procedurally flawed to expect that the CEOs acting in both capacities to oversee investigations into allegations that directly implicate themselves. By the time of putting the three sitters under administration, the dual role of the CEOs presented a conflict of interest that could compromise and undermine the integrity and independence required for a credible investigative process, which was required to develop corrective action intended to stabilize the governance of the entities. Allow me to zoom into the specifics regarding each of the three sitters, starting with the construction sitter in question. Firstly, in February 2024, the CFO of this entity alleged that the CEO was giving her unlawful and illegal instructions, and that she further alleged that unethical conduct against the CEO, which made working conditions unbearable, led to her resignation. On the 24th of June, 2024, the SETA accounting authorities received a written complaint from the suspended SCM manager regarding the allegations against the CEO, interfering in recruitment processes as well as supply chain management processes. However, the accounting authority indicated that the investigation was conducted to ascertain the allegations, but there was no conclusive evidence owing to the lack of cooperation from the complainant. The SETA Accounting Authority wrote a letter dated the 19th of August 2024 requesting the minister and the minister's concurrence for the precautionary suspension of the CEO following allegations against him. For some time, the SETA had been the subject of negative media publicity by the City Press, reporting various allegations which points to governance problems at the entity. A number of allegations have also been brought to the attention of the National Skills Authority's Secretariat by various sources, including the National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union, NEHAWU, implicating the CEO of the construction SETA. The services SETA, as the minister has indicated in his address, its former chairperson addressed a letter to the former minister notifying her about the resignation of the acting chief executive effective from the 31st of January 2025. One of the issues was to fill the vacancies, and that the chairperson recommended two possible options. One, the appointment of an internal candidate to act as CEO, or the appointment of an external candidate to minimize potential disruptions to the operations and executive management of the organization that may arise from the leadership challenges. The chairperson and his letter was accompanied by a report from the Audit Committee task team highlighting supply chain irregularities within the services SETA. The Audit Committee task team report contains serious findings that point to systemic governance and compliance failures within the services SETA. The Audit Committee task team report contains serious findings, and these are summarized as follows. Failure to comply with National Treasury regulations in advertising bids, failure by bid evaluation and bid adjudication committees to conduct adequate due diligence and quality assurance, gross negligence by the CFO for paying invoices before contracts start, failure by the CEO to disclose his relationship with the awarded bidder, improper constitution of the bid adjudication committee, misrepresentation of facts and misleading of EXCO, and the failure of EXCO to fulfill fiduciary duties. The findings of the audit committee task team pointed to multiple transgressions that are in direct contravention of the Skills Development Act and the PFMA. And the report highlights clear evidence of financial mismanagement and maladministration. Regarding the local government SETA, the department received a letter dated the 14th of April 2025 from the Minister of Finance, Honorable Enoch Godongwana, informing the Minister of Higher Education and Training of a forensic investigation that was commissioned by National Treasury into local government SETA. This investigation by National Treasury was initiated in response to two allegations. One, irregular appointment of the CEO, and two, irregular dissolution of the Audit and Risk Committee at the local government SETA, allegedly by the CEO himself. The forensic process was conducted under the authority of the National Treasury in accordance with the mandate to ensure sound financial governance and compliance with applicable legislation within public institutions. In the letter, the Minister of Finance presented to the Minister of Higher Education the outcome of the forensic investigation conducted by National Treasury. In view of the investigation outcomes, the Minister of Finance requested that should the Minister of Higher Education and Training concur with the findings of the report, he must facilitate the implementation of the recommendations contained in the forensic report. Notably, this investigation was initiated by the National Treasury following receipt of allegations from an anonymous whistleblower consistent with the principles of accountability and ethical governance in the public sector. In view of the forensic investigation report and findings contained therein, the department is expected to initiate necessary processes to implement recommendations arising from the investigation. The report specifically recommends that disciplinary action be instituted against the members of the selection and interview panel in respect of the appointment of the CEO. Secondly, that the chairperson of the LGC SETA board have questions to answer, that the members of the LGC SETA board also be part of the recommended disciplinary action, and lastly, the CEO of the LG SETA. Furthermore, the report recommends that a criminal inquiry and investigation be initiated against the chairperson and members of LG SETA board for allegedly failing to comply with fiduciary responsibilities as indicated in Section 50 and 51 of the Public Finance Management Act. The above PFMA provisions relate to effective, efficient, and transparent use of financial and other resources, as well as the responsibility to prevent irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. In the light of these investigations and allegations reported against the three SETAs, and which are your construction SETA, the LG SETA, and services SETA, the minister then directed that the DG of the department, in terms of Section 15, after consultation with the National Skills Authority, place the SETA, LG SETA, as well as the services SETA under administration. The National Skills Authority reports, particularly the one that was issued in May 2025, had submitted to the minister reports compiled following investigations to an array of complaints referred to the minister and NSA itself to investigate. Amongst these complaints in respect of LG SETA had been a matter of chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee who had reported as having a conflict of interest in that he had held directorship in an entity which was or had done business with the LG SETA. The Auditor General of South Africa, in its report of the financial year 2023-2024, red flagged the relationship between LG SETA and the said entity, stating that the independence of the Audit and Risk Committee was impaired. The Auditor General had stated that LG SETA had not adequately complied with the legislation. However, despite the AG's findings, the LG SETA had thereafter paid the same entity an amount of 655 million, understandably for services rendered. The National Skills Authority had recommended that this and other matters which could not be exhaustively be responded to by the SETA be considered for a comprehensive forensic investigation. In the case of the construction SETA, the NSA had been dealing with a wide range of investigations submitted by various sources within and outside of the SETA. The identity of the sources and the nature of complaints and the extent to which these state governance and SETA allegations had become a subject of sensational media coverage for a considerable period of time, and the NSA considered, was in the process of finalizing a report with recommendations to the minister to intervene in the SETA governance arrangements. So sources of complaints and requests for intervention included former board and former CEO and executive management, individual personnel, trade unions, and stakeholders having made submissions in this regard. The local government SETA had further was subjected to recommendations that a criminal inquiry and investigation be initiated against its chairperson and members for failing to comply with fiduciary responsibilities as outlined in Section 50 and 51 of the PFMA. The above PFMA provisions relate to effective, efficient, and transparent use of financial and other resources. And in the light of these investigations and allegations reported against the three SETAs, the minister directed the Director General in terms of Section 15(1), after consulting with the National Skills Authority, to place the SETA, LG SETA, and the Services SETA under administration. I make reference to the report of the National Skills Authority, and I think they were quite covered in the minister's address. I will skip this part unless it's necessary to come back to it. But in number 3.4 of this presentation, bullet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 begins to indicate what were existing, reports sitting with the National Skills Authority that were also a subject of inquiry and by the lenses of the National Skills Authority. The National Skills Authority was consulted on the 7th of August, 2025, and its advice was submitted to the minister by the 14th of August, 2024. The NSA's focus was on the merits, the basis of taking over administration, and the adherence to the administrative procedures followed as prescribed by the Skills Development Act. The NSA noted the following: that the seriousness of the nature of allegations and governance challenges reported at the three SETAs, including those established through the NSA's own oversight, monitoring and evaluation function, required this action. That the consultation was on the process and not on the individuals to be appointed as administrators. These were no boards as per, or there were no boards as per the definition of the SDA at the time of the consultation. Instead, the COOs were fulfilling the functions of the accounting authorities as per Section 49 of the PFMA, concurrently with their substantive functions as CEOs. The CEOs were somewhat implicated in the investigations and reported governance challenges. Therefore, consulting the sitters in question as required by the Act would have meant consulting the very same CEOs in their capacity as AAs, thus presenting a case of conflict of interest. In line with the provisions of the SDA applicable to sitter boards, a screening process was conducted on the administrators in respect of the following factors: their criminal record, their citizenship, their fraud listing, their academic qualifications. The screening was conducted based on the personal documents submitted by the candidates as follows. Mr. Machi Lihlogonolo Alfred Masocha of Services Sitter, the preliminary and screening process found no adverse findings against him. Equally, no adverse findings listed against both Mr. Zugile Christopher Mvalo and Mr. Ditaba Opa Nkwane, appointed as administrator of the construction sitter. To safeguard the potential risk, the administrator's letters of appointment, as signed by the Director General, stated that their appointment is subject to attainment of a clear report of their background checks, including criminal records checks and qualifications verifications, and that if the report comes out with adverse finding, the minister reserves the right to exercise his discretion regarding their appointment. The appointment, monitoring, and evaluation of the sitter administration, since it has commenced, a number of due diligence activities have been conducted by the department. Since the administrators were identified through the headhunting of suitably qualified and experienced candidates in possession of experience and extensive leadership competencies and capabilities required for the administrative role, the appointment needed to make a certain of this prior to the appointment. The introduction of the sitters by the Director General to the sitters happened, and as they commence their duties in their entities. The service level agreements between the department and all of the administrators have been signed by the administrators. They are required to immediately conduct a diagnostic assessment that is expected to be characterized by an analysis and compilation of and submission of diagnostic assessment reports. The work plan agreements, after conducting the diagnostic assessments, will be developed and signed so that the work plan agreements and turnaround interventions with the Director Generals will allocate action plans and be reflected in their KPAs, activities, milestones, and timelines of each sitter for a period of 12 months. And they have been provided a kind of an orientation program in all of these areas, and they've been guided properly by the department relevant officials. The administration is expected to provide monthly reports, and the administrators will submit these reports, and the department will hold one-on-one performance evaluation meetings to track progress of implementation of the turnaround interventions. The induction of administrators, as I've indicated before, has been conducted, and it dealt with the following areas: governance challenges, allegations reported, forensic investigations, board's handover reports, audit outcomes, the annual performance plans, service level agreements, as well as annual reports. The department has also facilitated a session with the AG South Africa, whereby the administrators were brought and briefed jointly by both the DG of the department and the Auditor General. And this has happened, and it covered the area of the audit outcomes in each SETA over the last financial year, and the audit reports and outcomes were handed over to the administrators by the DG through the Auditor General. Based on these audit reports that they have received, the administrators are expected to ensure that audit action plans are in place to address internal control deficiencies that are identified. The minister in his address has indicated that the two CEOs of LG SETA and Construction SETA have instituted legal proceedings against the minister and the department, stating that the decision to put the SETAs under administration is unlawful and prejudicial on their part. The Construction SETA's matter was scheduled to be heard by Labour Court on the 16th of September, but was removed on urgent court roll on the 15th of September, as the court did not find any urgency in their request to table this matter before it. It is also important to emphasize that putting the SETAs under administration, as the minister has observed, is a corrective action provided for in terms of Section 15.1 and Section 15.4 of the Act, not directed at the CEOs, but at identifying the governance shortfalls that can hinder the performance of the entity, and as deemed necessary, develop remedial and corrective action plans to mitigate those challenges. The LG SETA administrative update will indicate that during the meeting with the DG, the administrator and the Auditor General of South Africa and the AG informed the meeting about the performance of the SETA. The AG has expressed concern that LG SETA has incurred wasteful and fruitless expenditure of approximately 50 million rands. And this is new findings that have been tabled to LG SETA over and above the reasons for putting the SETA on administration. Further, in this meeting, AG South Africa also made a finding concerning the chairperson of the auditor or of the audit risk committee, at which the Auditor General observed that a private company conducting business with the entity was identified, and this dual relationship compromises the independence of the audit and risk committee. Chair, the administrator has already directed that upon the expiry of the current term of the audit and risk committee's term, which is in September 2025, such a practice will not be permitted in the future, as it constitutes poor governance. The administrator is prioritizing these areas, including arranging meetings with the Auditor General of South Africa to resolve a dispute that dates back to the financial year 2022-23 on audit outcomes, which the LG SETA decided to take the matter to court, emanating from a cyber attack from a various termed black bite, the malware that inflicted damage to some of the financial records of the LG SETA. The administrator is in the process of implementing the forensic investigation into alleged irregular appointment of the CEO of the LG SETA, and this is work in progress as monitored by the department since the appointment of the SETAs. Chair, I'm not going to take you through the rest of 8.2. I believe that the minister's report has sufficiently covered this, but I do wish to indicate that the strategic planning matters and the audit matters, as the minister cited them, and legal matters, that have been tabled around the construction SETA, as well as HR matters have reference in the report we are tabling before Parliament today. Further, regarding the construction SETA, the update in terms of its administration will include the fact that facilities management matters that have been tabled before us. We already have instructed that the refurbishment project that had to be completed, which had started in 2022, and that the developing of terms of reference to investigate these abandoned renovation project be looked into. This will include financial management matters that are cited, stakeholder relationship management matters, and as well as ICT matters that had been initiated, to ensure that all ICT systems, as reported, including the initiation of the digitalization of the process, and instructed review of learner management system, bidding process versus the adoption of the MICT SETA is looked into. The SETA administration updates are made reference to, and I'm not going to cover them as well here, Chair, but they are tabled before you to show the members of Parliament what work has been done since the SETAs have been put under administration.